So, here's a quick recap on where we are. Ferrari, the dominant force of the 1960s, backed out of a deal for Ford to buy them at the 11th hour. So Ford vows to defeat Ferrari at Le Mans. Ford fails comprehensively in 1964, where Ferrari wins. Ford brings even more cars, and fails comprehensively in 1965, where Ferrari wins. Enter 1966. So Ford, under Carroll Shelby, had committed to the GT40 Mark II, featuring the 427 cubic centimetre or 7 litre NASCAR engine, producing 475 brake horsepower. The year started promisingly for them, with Ken Miles and Lloyd Ruby taking the inaugural 24 Hours of Daytona, followed immediately by the 12 Hours of Sebring. Ferrari were back as well, with a brand new 330 P3 as their challenger. The Ferrari took victory at Monza in the hands of John Surtees and Mike Parks, as well as taking victories with the lower classes of cars at the Nürburgring and at the Targa Florio. The first on-track meeting of the P3 and the Mark II was at the 1,000 kilometers of Spa-Francorchamps and went the way of Ferrari. Parks joined by Ludovico Scalfiotti a lap ahead of Whitmore and Gardner in the Mark II piloted by Alan Mann Racing. Then we come to Le Mans. Ford was bullish in his pursuit, entering 15 Mark IIs for the race, of which 8 were accepted by the ACO. 3 factory cars of Gurney, Grant, Hulme, Miles and McLaren Amon, 3 Holman and Moody, a NASCAR team also built by Shelby, with Donohue, Hawkins, Bucknam, Hutchinson and Bianchi Andretti behind the wheel, and 2 more cars for British team Alan Mann Racing. Ferrari, on the other hand, brought only 3 330 P3s, upgraded to 420 brake horsepower from the P2 engine. There were 2 works cars for John Surtees and Ludovico Scarfiotti, and Bardini and Goucher, and an open cockpit NART run car for Pedro Rodriguez and Ginter. The supporting cast in the 1966 Le Mans were 6 Ford GT Mark Is and a smattering of Ferrari P2 machines as well. The Fords were fastest in testing, with the experimental J car at the hands of Chris Amon setting the fastest lap. But when it came to qualifying, it was Dan Gurney who set pole, with a 3 minutes 30 second lap, 3 seconds quicker than Ginter in the fastest of the Ferraris, who could only manage 5th. Dramatically, Ferrari's best driver, John Surtees, walked out on the team the morning of the race. Surtees was meant to be starting the race and acting as the rabbit, the one to chase the faster Fords and push them as far as they could go. But with the Fiat chairman Gianni Agnelli at the race, the team offered Scarfiotti, his nephew, the chance to start the race. Surtees quit on the spot, with Mike Parks taking his place in the team. The honorary starter was Henry Ford II in a fitting moment for him and his team as the rain greeted the dropping of the green flag. Ford held on to the top 4 at the beginning of the first lap, but Miles, who was meant to be the rabbit for the Ford team, broke his door with contact on lap 1, but by 8 p.m. he was back in first place. At that point, only the Fords of Miles and Hume and Gurney and Grant, plus the NART Ferrari of Rodriguez and Ginter, were on the lead lap. The drizzle that turned into a deluge kept the Ferraris in the hunt, as the Ford couldn't maximise their power advantage in the sloshy conditions. So much so that come nightfall, Ginter had put the NART Ferrari in the lead, with Parks in the works machine in second place. Miles and Gurney were on the same lap, chasing hard. As the rain cleared, the Fords again took the lead before another shower saw the advantage swing back to Ferrari. But not for long. Goucher in the factory Ferrari P3 spun in the S's before being cleaned up by a Porsche. The next 2 cars on the scene collided in avoidance before Scarfiotti, in the other factory Ferrari, arrived and cleaned up one of the stranded cars. This destroyed both factory-backed Ferrari 330 P3s in a single incident in the middle of the night. That meant that the remaining Ferrari challenge fell on the shoulders of the NART machine, but that could only last until 3 a.m. before a broken gearbox brought their retirement. So Ford had done it, with half the race still remaining. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The Gurney Grant car expired from the lead after battling with the Miles car against team orders, blowing a head gasket, as well as all of the Mark I machines that were insurance to the Mark II's challenge, suffering problems. It was a Mark II 1, 2, 3 for Ford, but there were still nerves into the finish. Once it became clear that the Fords had outlasted the competition, Leo Beebe, the Ford racing director, attempted to organise a dead heat, giving both Ken Miles and Bruce McLaren the victory. Miles was instructed to slow down to allow McLaren to catch up, and as the rain started to pour again, they approached the line to take a famous, or infamous, victory for Ford. There's plenty of conjecture as to what happened at the line. McLaren crossed the line clearly ahead of Miles, whether that be because Miles slowed down in a personal protest, or because McLaren sped up to take victory. The ACO ruled that as the McLaren Amon car had covered more distance in 24 hours, starting 2 grid slots further down from the number 1 Miles Hume car, the number 2 would be declared the victors. And that's the official results as they stand still today. An all-New Zealand lineup took an American car designed by the British minds to victory on French soil against an Italian challenge and started a legacy of the Ford GT at Le Mans that lasted another 4 years.